Well, we are back with another episode of Culture Chat. We've been on a little bit of a hiatus with some life changes, so many months since we've been in the recording studio, but we're thrilled to be here today with Rory Stonewalsh, partner of Hirschenberg Stonewalsh and Associates, an insurance broker in the beautiful Phoenix, Arizona area. And much to my surprise, Rory and I are Arizona State Sun Devil alumni. Didn't realize that till after we graduated that we were at ASU at the same time. So, little fun fact about
Go
Rory and I
Devils.
here. But thrilled to have you with us, Rory. Thanks for
Thank you.
joining, Andy.
Thank you for having me. It's such an honor.
Thanks. Yeah, it's good
Uh-huh.
fun. We enjoy it. Um, so yeah, Rory was part of our very first cohort of Finding Your Leadership Voice over 5 years ago. And every year I host a reunion, bring everybody who's gone through back. This year we did something a little different because I've been enjoying being a coach of the positive intelligence work out there. So we started with a little reflection to help folks get clarity on 2026 visioning and how they wanted to show up as a leader and different things that they wanted to focus on. So again, Rory, thanks for joining us today. And maybe you could share a little bit about the clarity and going through the exercise to really be intentional and visioning what it's like for you to lead a small business.
Sure. Yeah. Well, again, thank you for having me. It's awesome to be here. I think what was really neat. I don't do a lot of meditation. I don't do a lot of, which I should do more, um, but I don't. So in our session, when you had mentioned, hey, we're going to do a little bit of a meditation, more of a thinking exercise, close your eyes. Borderline almost fell asleep because it was so relaxing. But while I was in that, meditative state, you were walking through a lot of good, thoughts and questions and just kind of, it just gave me some good clarity, which I need right now for my business. So, I think one of the things that I've been kind of marinating on for a while is just, the need for what's the thing we all need more as we get busier in our lives and have kids and have our jobs and all the other things that we have is time, right? So I've really noticed that over the last few years, the time in my life to do anything is getting, very limited. So I needed to refocus so in this exercise, it really was clear that I really, I want to prioritize refocusing the time I spend, the time I have on productive things, on my family, on my, doing good work. And, so it was kind of the series of thoughts like, okay, what do I want to do in my work life? I want to have a better work-life balance. And what do I need in order to achieve that work-life balance? I need to delegate. And I think that like a lot of small business owners in the world, or not even small business owners, just people in general, business owners in general, or just people in general, delegation is hard because you feel like you do, like what you do, how you do it, but it's hard to trust somebody else to do. And so I realized that, I really do need to just I've got to relinquish some of this control that I have on my world and put my faith and my expertise into other people and trust. And that way I can regain the work-life balance I want, because what I'm finding is that I'm ultimately spending way too much time working and not enough time hanging out with my kids or my wife. And just, it would be really in this finite time. I blink now and my kids I feel like they were born and now they're going into junior high and high school, and it's crazy. So I want to put some more time back into my family, because before I know it, they're going to be gone and out doing things in the world, hopefully good things. So it was just a very good clarity for me that it's kind of like this, in order to get what I want in my life, I need to delegate my time, and then that will open up other things, the things that I want. So it was a good clarity for me, and it kind of all just came together really, just like a really nice symmetry in this session that just made it really clear that that's what I need to do.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, so much good stuff. I think that what you touch on, where delegation is one of the hardest things that leaders at any level, and it's not even folks in business, just in life, right? I know how I do it. It's got to be this way. That control aspect of it, and I wonder too, like, do we think some of this is I don't want to impose on other people also? Like, does that ever come up for you? Like, I should just do it. Like, I'll just do it myself, even though you're the boss and you've hired the folks, and But does that ever come up for you? Like, oh, I don't want to ask them to do this.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think so. I last year, and Rachel, I think I shared this with you a little bit of this story. We hired an employee to hopefully take over some of the sales process in our office. And what we realized very quickly, and going through these trials and tribulations, is that I'm not a micromanager, and I'm not. And so, in that go round, the person I hired was a younger employee that probably needed more micromanagement. Not necessarily. And I say micromanagement, I feel like maybe that's a negative connotation. So maybe
a little bit more hands-on, a little bit more
direction.
Right. Needed more direction. Right. Not micromanagement, just more direction. And I found that that's not really my leadership style. I'm not really not to say that I can't give direction. It's just I think I need more. I learned that I need more experience, at least right now in my world. I don't have the time to spend with somebody to, go into that kind of detail. Maybe that'll be my next hire. If once I get more time. So basically went through that, realized that the fit that we had hired wasn't a good fit for what I needed at that time. And so unfortunately it ended up not working out. So we parted ways and we said, okay, well, let's try again. And so this time we hired a younger employee that kind of was in the beginning of their career. This time we hired an employee that is in the middle of their career. So very similar age, has a lot of, I want to say there's two things that I think were very important in this situation. One was the professional experience, which is very important, just learning how to be with other people in the world and in jobs. But what's kind of new and different is that our work that we are used to, that I guess we were used to in the post-COVID, or in the pre-COVID world, was very hands-on, very much everybody was working together in offices and face-to-face. And the reality is that's not really the world anymore. So having that experience of somebody that had that pre-COVID office environment experience and also has the post-COVID, I can interact in office or out of office, was important. And then life experience, just having the experience of life, of just what life throws at you, is a big deal too. So it's been a big learning curve. I think in my prior world, we've kind of hired organically, just kind of like friends and family have kind of come, just in various stages of their life where you kind of just bring them in and you already kind of, it is what it is. So this experience has been very eye-opening, where it's like, okay, we need to learn how to function as a non just small business and a real business that has employees that come from all walks of life, and get our processes in that straight in that way.
Yeah, I think. Oh, I was just gonna say, I think that one of the things in what I'm hearing from you is really understanding what your leadership style is. And I think whether you're in a small business or, quite frankly, the minute you have people, it's very important to understand and know that, because then you hire to that, right? So some people want someone who they can start with point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and do it this exact way, and they want someone to follow that. And then probably similar to me, you're like, hey, this thing needs to get done. Like, I am not going to be here to tell you steps 1 through 5 on how to do it. If you have a question, come ask me a question. I can answer questions, no problem. But work in the proactive state. Be out there a little bit more aggressive. But it's very, very important to know who you are as a leader so that you bring the right people under you so you can be successful and they can be successful.
Preach.
Yes.
That is true. That is truth right
Yeah.
there. 100%.
Yeah.
That is exactly what the last year of my life has been, is trying to figure out how that shapes, how that person fits in like a puzzle into our business.
Yeah.
And and I think that is part of maturity within an organization and being a smaller business and getting bigger and bigger. You do go the friends and family route, and you've got so many needs that it's like, oh, this person has this skill, let's just plug them in here. So there's enough to do that you can find a spot for the family and friends depending on where they are in their stage and phase. Whereas now you're a little bit bigger, and it's like, well, actually I have this very specific need that I need to fill. So we really need to find that right person, that's going to augment this, and it's not just going to be anybody who's available.
Yeah, no, and I think part of the thought process too, look, small business, not to say we want to do things on the cheap, that's not the whole goal, but we also don't have infinite dollars
smaller
to throw.
Margins. We have smaller margins.
Smaller margins. That's the way to say it, right? So you try to fit the right person in, and I think we said, if we find this younger employee, they can grow with us, and maybe we can fit them in the margins of the right area, right? We can get a good kind of younger employee discount, so to speak. But that, again, just where we are, I'd rather pay the dollars and have the experience at this point, because we just, maybe
you have to decide what's valuable to you and what's not.
Right.
And I wanted to just really, earlier you said something that I didn't want to lose it. You said, what do I want? Right? As a business owner, what is it that I actually want? And this was maybe in the constructs of like your own life and how you're living. And I think a lot of times, as deciding to go do a small business, you think to yourself, this is for flexibility, right? And so I think it's really good. It goes back to that purpose, goes back to being intentional, really asking that question. You're going to own a business. What do you want? If you want more time, then now you have to start to think about, how do I give myself more time, hiring people, more effective, efficient processes, whatever. But I love that you said, what do I want? And you want to make sure that you have time to spend with your kids. So, okay, well, now how do we build operations around that, right?
Right. And I think that, to your point, what I want has changed. So like what I wanted 10 years ago is not what I want anymore. Not to say that I don't want to be successful and, make lots and lots of money, right? Like we all do that. We all want that. But priority shift, right? So my focus now is more on the time and delegation aspect, as opposed to, money's always going to be there, don't get me wrong, but it's not as big of a priority. It's more of how can we use the dollars that we have and prioritize the things that we have to give all of us a good work-life balance, good state of mind, all those things, right? So yeah, what I wanted 10 years ago was to be busy. I wanted to be busy. I wanted to be running around and meetings all day and hustling. Not to say I don't want to do that, but I want to do that in the right context.
Well, and not at the cost of something else, right? What's the cost that you're willing to trade off for that?
Yeah.
And it is different, life cycles.
And success is personally defined. Maybe you don't really want to make $1 gajillion. You would rather make a very small amount of money, but be able to spend time with see your kids grow up, right? So success is just so personal that, again, what is it that you want? I don't have to want what Rachel wants. I don't have to want what you want, Rory, right? I get to decide that, and then you make your plan around it. I love it.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, and I think that's, I think I'll give a connotation of like weight loss. Okay, so like an example of weight loss. So like, I feel like most of us are always in that kind of constant struggle, like, I could lose a few pounds here. And I feel like that's kind of the way business is too, right? It's like, you're always in a perennial state of what can I, it's never easy. It's never like I've got everything and I'm good to go. It's never like that. You think it's going to be like that, but it never is. You're always kind of striving or struggling or, worrying. it's not as smooth sailing as I think you think idealistically when you're younger in your career. Like, oh, I'm going to start a business and everything's going to be amazing, and it's not how it really works. Um, but to that point though, I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that I went down this path. I meet people every day, and they tell me about the corporation they're working for and how they're doing layoffs, and or they have to answer to the boss of the boss of the boss of the boss of the boss, and you're like, it's just the worst. And I just feel like I'm so grateful I don't have to deal with any of that in my world. And so yes, there's trade-offs on both sides, right? There's pros and cons, and so so yeah, you have to kind of remind yourself of the pros every day of what you're doing. And I'm in the middle of staying home to watch my kids this week because it's spring break for them, right? And I have the flexibility to do that, which is great, and I'm very grateful for that. So pros and cons on all of it, but overall I'm very grateful that I have a good family and have a good good career, and all those things are great. So we can make tweaks. We can always make it better. But I'm grateful.
Part of why some of us go in this entrepreneurial space, right? All three of us here are small business owners. We're all entrepreneurs that took the leap and said, I could go and do the corporate thing. We've all done that. We all have experience in that. But I want something a little bit different. It's not better or worse, and it definitely comes with its trade-offs, because I think, especially being a small business owner, that you are the only one to depend on. Like, if you don't make the nut that month, you can't look elsewhere.
Yeah.
It's happening right here. So there is that little bit of pressure that maybe we thrive on. Maybe that's like what gives us that oomph to go out and do it. I'm not totally sure, but to thrive on that, like, when is enough? Like, I know I really struggled. I'm 5.5 years now on my own, and those first 2-3 years, like, I really did not have a good balance on what is enough. Like, what is that number? I put a number down on paper, but it still just didn't feel quite right. I always felt like I had to be hustling for the next thing. I don't think I've like totally overcome that, but I'm a lot more at peace with it. So there is definitely something, maybe it's just in our DNA of doing this, that there's a constant like push and drive to do that next sale, meet that next client, have that next conversation. And if I don't deliberately put boundaries around that, I will be doing stuff in all hours of the day, or not be taking the week of spring break, or whatever that looks like.
To your point though, it is really, I think that is one of my biggest struggles, is when to say no. You always want to say yes. It feels so good to say yes. But I think,
and you remember the lean times, so you're like, I don't want to say no.
That's the hard. That it really is. It's like, it really is the hard thing to say, right? When you start from $0 and you're like, man, I know what that feels like also, and that's a tough time too. Yeah. But the reality of the knowing when to say no is important, and I'm still 15, 17 years into this. I'm still learning that it's not easy to say no.
One of the things Rachel and I went through this maybe a couple years back, and it was kind of like, we don't want every client. We don't want to work with and everybody's not suited for us, right? There are things that are criteria that we're like, these are non-negotiables. And I think, again, to your point, Rory, like, when you're starting the business, it's like every single dollar, I'm never turning anything down. But then you start to realize, again, I'm sorry, I'm like this broken record. Okay, well, what do I want? Well, I don't want to work for people who do X, Y, or Z, or I don't want to be under the gun 24 hours a day. I mean, Rachel and I both consulted with a company where it was like, okay, well, you need to be available on Teams for whatever, 8-12 hours a day. I'm like, whoa, like, this is not the gig. This is not it.
Work for
like, I would go back into corporate HE double hockey sticks, but I'm like, but again, I think once you recognize, then you really, and part of this, I think, is confidence too, right? Like, understanding, maybe I'm going to get a little foo-foo here, and we can always edit this, but like the universe is looking out for us always, right? The good things are always going to happen, even if there's like bad things that are thrown in there. Like the good things are going to happen. You're doing the work, you're investing the time, you're in the flow, you're in the process. Like good things are going to come of it. And I think it is the valley moments where you're like, do I have the stomach for this, right? Yeah, like do I really believe like all this work is paying off? But I think in the end, again, if you want the things that you want in life, you have to go after. You have to sort of feel comforted in even the valleys when you're moving, as an entrepreneur.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think that, again, not to get too like spiritual about it, right? Like, but I do think sometimes that the energy you put in is the energy is what you get out of your business, right? Like, it's all just kind of like people feel it, right? People know, if you're checked out or if you're not really doing something, they know. So if you're not giving your full, then people understand it. People see it. Like, and I, again, like sometimes I sit down and I'm like, man, I don't know how I got to where I am. Like, I feel like I'm doing pretty good. But then I also realize that I work really hard and I try really hard and I care. And that, I think that's important. Caring about things is important.
Totally.
Caring about your clients is important.
Absolutely. And taking space for yourself and caring about yourself is also important. As Rachel said, like we are not part of that hustle and grind culture. Me personally, I know Rachel feels this way too. We're just opposed to it because it just creates more anxiety and desperation, and you're not like living the whole purpose of what, why you're here, why you wanted to make this widget. You're not living that. You're worried about the wrong thing. So I couldn't agree more.
Passion is important, right? To really care about what you're doing, care about the people around you. And I do think it is contagious, and that's what draws people. Even like when we do this, our talk here, our podcast here, Andy reminded me pretty early on. I'm like, oh, the mistake and the thing and the, and it's like, well, if that's what we're trying to project, that's what we're going to get, and that's not the kind of clients that we want, right? Like, that's not the vibe that we're going after. Like, if that's what somebody's looking for, then we're not the right fit. I do remember, like, pretty early on, I was maybe like 4 months into working for myself, and somebody introduced me to a prospective client, and it was somebody I cared a lot about, so I really wanted to make it work, and we had the chemistry call, and I was like, this ain't it. It's not gonna work. And I called it, and I, introduced them to some other folks I thought might be a better fit, but I went back to the person who made the intro and I said, it's not a good fit for me. And 5 years later, she's like, the fact that you did that, I know you have so much integrity and you're the kind of person that I want to continue to work with. So at the time, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm going to turn down a client right out of the gate here. It should be yes, yes, yes to everything. And it served me. It made the relationship better. It's helped me, in the long run, for sure in the long run. Why did I do that? Who knows? Confidence, all the things, don't know. But I trusted my gut and we went with it, and it's all worked out for the best. So, but even that, like in my 20s, you say yes to everything. That's I feel like how I got a lot of that's how I got a lot of exposure and experience to stuff, right? Like a project comes up and you go, yeah, I'll do that. You raise your hand. I didn't have any kids. I didn't, there was, sure, yes, I've got time and I'm eager and stuff. But that kind of thinking certainly did not serve me when I hit 40 and had a much more demanding job and a team of people I needed to learn how to lean on, and a kid at home, and a husband, and all the stuff that yes mentality didn't serve me anymore. So again, a time and a place for everything. Maybe in 10 years I'll be like, yeah, let's do everything, but but not now. So time and a place.
Definitely.
Sure. Yeah. To all your points, I mean, it just makes me think, kind of circling back to what we were talking about, the career path you choose. And when I was younger in my career, was in the corporate world and realized very quickly, like, man, this is a grind. Like, and I was in my 20s, you know, like I could see it. Like, people were just burnt out, and that was 20 years ago, right? Like, can't imagine, you know, where it is now. But yeah, I'm really grateful that, you know, again, like the energy that I felt in the thought process that I had was, look, I mean, if you put in good time and good work, and you know, then you'll get out what you want out of it. And you know, that's where it is. It's interesting though. You know, you never feel satisfied though. I never feel like I'm, you know,
Rest on your
oh man,
laurels.
you know, I've hit it. I'm making it. You know, like I
Yeah.
feel like I'm just always still grinding, and
The
you
next
know,
thing.
but I like that. You know, that's the cool part about it too. You know, you're always, you know, if you feel satisfied, I don't know. I'm not really sure what that would feel like. I don't know how that would work, but you tell me, if you guys, if you feel like that, but I certainly don't.
No, I think there is a little bit of like trusting the process, right? Like you trust that you're going through it. But yeah, I mean that's the passion, right? And it doesn't feel as much of a grind to me anymore as like this is part of the work that I've had to learn how to embrace that and not be afraid of it or like feel like, oh, I don't like to do that part. It's like, what is it about this part that I do like? And I just so resonate and appreciate with what you're saying that you keep coming back to gratitude. You know, and that is one of the things I know that Andy and I spend a lot of time with. Like, we are so grateful that we get to do this. And we're grateful that we have a partner in it. Like, we're very grateful for each other. And I know, Rory, you have a partner, you both, I mean, how does that work for you? How do you guys work together?
It's interesting. You know, I think that you know, in the beginning, it was so enormous for me. He was basically my mentor. So he mentored me for the first probably 5 years of my career, before I even felt really like enough confidence where I could go out and do these things on my own. And I'm grateful for that. I mean, unfortunately, I wish I could be the mentor to somebody else, but I don't know if that's, you know, I don't know if I have that time, right? So it's interesting about how the world of just business and success happens, and it's almost sometimes like it has to line up. You know, it's not like you could do all the right things, you could have the best business idea, you could have the best, you could be the brightest person, you could be the whatever, but if it doesn't line up with all the things that happen in your life too, then there's a good chance it might not work, right? Like we try to hire people for sales all the time in our industry, but it's such a hard grind. You know, you're basically starting at zero, and you have to be in a situation where you could be okay with making $0 for a while, right? Like, or making very little money, you know,
Yep.
while you grow your book. And you know, luckily, you know, Rachel, like, you know, having Leah in my life, my sister, your sister, my wife, not my wife at the time, but where she had a more stable job, and I was able to kind of take a step back, and because that's important too, right? So I was able to take a step back and understand that I had to grow, and you know, take a big financial hit in my life, and you know, but that's a hard thing to do, and I think that's where, you know, that's the scary part. You know, that's where I think the corporate world kind of you get the handcuffs, right? Like that they've got those corporate handcuffs on.
It's safe, although we probably challenge, is it really that safe, especially in today's vibe? But yeah, it's very safe, and you know, every 2 weeks or every week, you know, you're getting a paycheck, and it looks about the same.
Right, and and it's scary. So you know, I give you both kudos for jumping out of that world too. It's a scary thing to do. It's a hard thing to do. But I would say anybody that's listening or watching this, if that's what you think you want to do, and if you have the passion for it, it's the right thing to do. Because it's going to
Trust in yourself.
Yeah, trust in yourself. You're the one. You put that energy in. If you have that vision, if you have that, you know, desire, it's going to be hard, but it's totally worth it. It is the greatest thing I've ever done outside of having kids, is to jump out and marry my wife, is to be able to, you know, do this, get this business going. And
Oh, that's so generous, Rory. I put my business in front of my kid. Just kidding. She's listening.
You know what I would love to hear from you, Rory, is about the failures, because this is not a straight stream. This is not always ascending, not hitting the top. There are these peaks and valleys. How do you manage through when things don't work out as you had anticipated?
Yeah, no, I think, what I've tried to adopt is we're not perfect. And I know we're good at what we do. I know my business, we're good. We care for people, but we're not perfect. And there's things that happen all the time. And, I think what we try to do, like we had an example actually literally like last week where, we had a client that got a big bill, and it was kind of unexpected. And so we went back and we looked and we figured out that we did all the right steps. There was nothing that we did technically wrong, but we had basically found some errors in an invoice that, the carrier had made, or there was some stuff going on, and we got them fixed. But I think, where in this situation, what I took away and my feedback was to my team was, maybe we should have done a better job of communicating that potentially because of these fixes, there might be a bigger bill coming up. And so again, we do audits for all of our clients after every open enrollment. And we've been doing these audits for 8 or 9 years. So, I mean, we're talking thousands and thousands of audits that we've done for our clients. And even this is a small client, and we're still learning things in this situation where, okay, maybe we should have just conveyed, like, even though it was just 1 or 2 things that we changed, that adversely impacted the invoice that they got, which hurt them, in their cash flow. So now we can go back and we know we need to get better at communicating those types of things. And we've been doing these for audits for 9 or 10 years, right? Like a long time. So you can always make these adjustments. So I think the reality is that as much as you think your workflow is good and your processes are good, they're never perfect and they can always be adjusted. And so again, I take that, I obviously have known Rachel a long time, and I think in my world, I am pretty open to feedback. It's hard. Sometimes bad feedback really stinks. But it also, you have to realize at that time that as hard as it is, it's what makes us better. So as much as that situation stunk and our client was very upset, maybe even that might impact our relationship with this client, right? It will make us a better brokerage for that. So sometimes you have to take those failures and learn from them. You have to learn from them, and then you just try to be better because of it.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of continuous improvement. Like, even if something is working well, still continuing to like pressure test those things to see where can we get better, where can we be more effective, coming from certainly the lens of the customer and the customer experience, but also for me as a business owner, for vendors that I work with, for employees that might be on staff. I think we always want to kind of be thinking about that improvement level. And sometimes I think that can be a problem, because you get your little baby that you birthed and you're like, I'm just going to hold this baby real close to me. And the baby's like, yo, I got to like stretch and grow, and you don't want that to happen, because sometimes, and this is an interesting thing too, your identity can be so closely tied to like how successful your business is going or isn't going. And I think that can be a little bit, do I want to use the word concerning? I think it's concerning because you don't want all your value tied up in a single thing, right? All your value for who you are as a human being, what you provide to the world, your family, friends, whatever, isn't about just the work. Which maybe
everything you just said is 100%. I feel like as I'm getting further into my career, it's harder for me to accept changes, if that makes sense. So like,
yeah.
So no, I mean, you're right. It's harder for me to work through changes, where I think maybe I was more adaptable and moldable when I was younger, right? Like, it is hard. Change is hard, and especially after you build this business and you're like, wow, we're pretty good at what we do, but then like we know we need to always do better, but it's hard because the processes we do are good.
Yeah,
they're comfortable.
They work.
Yes. I think that's the right word, comfortable. And it's hard to get out of your comfort zone. And I struggle with that now. I'm finding that as I'm getting older and as I'm getting longer into my career and into this business, I'm, I'm like, man, I totally understand those people that are like, you know, when you talk to people and they're so rigid about what they do and what they want, and you're like, man, just lighten up, understand, there's other ways to do it. But I'm starting to see that, like, I'm starting to understand that, like, that, getting older, you do have some certain wisdom, but it does also get harder to adapt and to make changes and to accept feedback. It is hard.
Great word. Adapt. It gets harder to adapt because you're in your comfy, safe space. Much, much harder to adapt the older you get.
So hard.
But why we have to actively be engaged in it, right? And actively be like exercising that muscle, if you will. Rachel, did I cut you off?
No. I was just I wanted to touch a little bit on the ego part of it too, right? Like, because we've spent so much time building the business and probably building those processes, like you said, you created this baby, and now we do get to be a little precious about it, and it's ours and it's this thing, and the ego is strong, it's like, what do you mean what I did isn't good enough, and it's like, if we can just change that. Maybe there's other factors for why we need to change. The environment around us has changed. The people, you don't even have to make it about you and the process you created. Like, things are constantly changing around us that we have to adapt. But it is super hard, and I think it's really important to have that level of self-awareness to know it is uncomfortable for me. I'm not a person who digs change, because there are people out there who are like, the more change, the better. Just give me the next thing, and da da da.
Good for them.
But yeah, Andy, you are like next. Thrive.
So it's a really hard.
Yeah, there are people out there, so it's important to know, like, I'm not one of those, and I find it uncomfortable, and I, just having that level of self-awareness goes a really long way, especially when something comes up, to be able to take that beat and go, wait a minute, who's talking now? Is it my ego? Or or do I really think there is value here not changing, right? Because then you get the flip side of that, like, we're not topsy-turvying everything all the time either, so what's our process for that process?
Because Rory, the other side of what the other side, like, for a person like me, is I will likely change to avoid even having to, like, then work on the thing that might be a little bit more difficult. Do you know what I mean? So it may be like, okay, we're just going to scrap that idea because that feels like way too much work. Let me just go to this new idea. So everything, I think, requires this level of balance in how we're thinking about what we're doing, back around to what we want. Where do we want our business to go? What are the things that we want to do? Really being intentional every day, thinking about keeping those things in mind, right? So that we're not just sort of floating and running around, whether to run away from our own maybe lack of knowledge, run away from our ego that is, driving all of this, all of those things. I think we have to just constantly be present and really intentional in what we do.
Present and intentional. What you just said, how, and I would love to ask you, because these are you're both very do a lot of great work with a lot of great people. How do you coach being present? Like, what are the best tools we can do or use to be present, to be intentional?
Rachel, you first.
Yeah, look at that. Really.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, it's so personal, right? It's extremely personal. You have to figure out what works for you. But I will tell you, every year when I think about, like, my New Year's resolution or whatever, not that I'm a fan of those, but being present is one of those things that I am constantly working on, how to quiet the mind. And I have a lot of rituals, so I encourage other people to find those rituals that really keep you focused and present, whether it's in a conversation, whether it's focused on the intention that you want to have. I mean, to get brass tacks about it, like sticky notes. Big fan of the sticky note. Like, every day, where's my focus at? Where do I how do I want to show up? How do I want to feel today? What do I want to experience? Or how do I want people to experience me? And just having those sticky notes front and center to keep that other stuff in my head at bay. And I do encourage people to do that. Some folks find journaling in the morning a great way to set that intention, a gratitude practice. My daughter has started her own gratitude practice of every morning, 3 things that she's grateful for. Doing that keeps it top of mind about what's really important to you. Just like you said, Rory, you're super grateful that you have this opportunity and ability to bring this energy and passion to your clients and your work. Starting the day with that top of mind, that's going to carry you and keep that focus for the day. And then, as many people know, and anybody who's listened to our podcast or knows me, exercise. It's like the biggest thing that I do to really stay focused and have that time on, how do I want to show up? What is most important to me? But you have to make it a ritual. Like you have to do that. For me, it doesn't just happen. And I don't think for most of us with the human condition that it just happens, maybe the Buddhist monk or folks who are like really, really in that space constantly, who have a strong meditation practice, have that level, but my brain has much deeper grooves that want me to be distracted and, over here and say yes to everything because I don't want to disappoint and, all these other voices in the head that without having a ritual, a non-negotiable makes it challenging. So
the one I would add, because I agree with everything that Rachel said, I think, again, probably repeating here, have purpose, intent, know what it is that you want to accomplish, what's the big stuff that you want to get done, and then how does that break into what you're going to do for the quarter, the month, the quarter of the month, the week, the day. So I think that's all really important. I would add celebration. And I think as business owners, we will be you're just constantly trying to put out the fires. But I don't know that we ever sit back and are like, man, today this went really, really well, right? I think when we can focus on the things that are going really well, in addition to the things that we want to be improving and continuing to deliver in the way that we want, we will continue to have that energy, that fire. In the valley, we will remember, what? There is some good things that go on with this, right? And so I think that there is an active daily practice of what one thing can I be so proud of that went right today? And sometimes that is, I got 2 things on my list checked off, right? Or it is, I shut down the computer. I said that 6 p.m., I gave myself the deadline of 6 p.m. today, and it doesn't matter what came in at 6:01. But being able to even just celebrate the smallest of victories is really good, positive reinforcement for your brain and your energy, I think, to keep going.
Love it. That's great. See, I'm getting some coaching in this podcast right now. This is great. Let's just keep going.
Well, it's so good to visit with you, Rory. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your wisdom and your journey as you've navigated successfully for 17 years. I can hardly believe
almost
it.
2 decades.
I know.
The goal.
There used to be hair here, I swear. It's funny how this works. But yeah, no, again, super appreciative that you would have me on. Super grateful. And, again, I will say, for not to plug you, but I'm going to plug you. The course that I took was really informative. It taught a lot about my leadership style, but things I wouldn't have known or I wouldn't have pursued about myself, and I'm super grateful. And so, my employee is going to be joining your next cohort, which is very exciting. So I'm very excited for her to learn more leadership styles and skills and things about herself as well. And, I think, again, these are the types of things that I think most of us in the world, most of us don't take the time to do every day. And I'm going to be more intentional in doing some of these things every day. But you're both doing great work. So keep up the great work, and yeah, keep going, because you're doing good things, and shaping some good leaders out there.
Thank you.
We
Thank you so
appreciate
much,
you,
Rory.
Rory. Thank you for your time today.
I
Oh,
appreciate
of
your
course.
relationship.
Yeah, and incredible insights. I think, not to beat a dead horse, but I think that owning a business is one of the probably the most challenging things you can do, and oddly at the same time the most rewarding. And seeing someone who took that leap and has been successful for what's going on 2 decades is inspiring beyond belief, particularly in an industry that I think is so highly competitive, can be incredibly challenging. You know, it's just so nice to hear about your successes and sort of how you worked through just continuing to to stay energized every day.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's very kind, and yeah, it's a daily thing, and just very grateful to be, to be where I'm at, and that's it. That's all I got. I mean, that's just grateful and gratitude.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rory.
Yeah. So thank you both.
Until next time. We'll talk next time. Maybe we'll talk about the trials and tribulations of healthcare for self-employment.
How many hours do we have to talk?
We'll leave that little dangling bit there. Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to talk about that so bad. All right, you must come back, Rory. I really wanted to talk about that. I think we all have a thread of healthcare.
We might need about 7 to 10 of these. We're going to start a new podcast series.
Yeah. Actually, that's not a bad idea, considering how challenging this very thing is for most small businesses. I even think just people trying to step out on their own, this is one of the reasons people don't, right? Is they have to contend with health insurance. And clearly, right now, particularly 2026, I don't think anyone can probably take the leap. I really don't. I really think that the ability to pay for individual coverage right now, it is, I don't know, really difficult. If you're starting out and you've got about $1,000 to get your business going, I mean, it's just difficult. So I say that to say I would love to have this conversation for real.
Come back and talk about it.
We will, yeah. If you ever want to, expand on that, there's plenty. We could, again, a series. I think we got to talk about 7 to 10, maybe 15 episodes. And I think we would just be hitting the tip of the iceberg at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it is a very, very tough. I will say that this year particularly is shaping up to be probably one of the hardest years of my entire career. Just with everything you just said, affordability, just the changes that are going on. It's a really, really tough time for a lot of people and businesses, and it's tough out there right now. So yeah. I would agree with that, and it's we're just trying to find the best solutions possible for our clients, and it's not easy right now, for sure. But that being said, to your point, talking about the whole Brian Thompson situation, it is, I legitimately, it was scary, because people sometimes do think that I work for United Healthcare or Blue Cross Blue Shield or whoever we're representing for their company, right? They think we are an employee of that company. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, watching the reaction to what happened was like extremely, like, I kind of was like, man, maybe I don't want to list my address on my business card anymore. Like, maybe I don't want people to know where I work, so speaking of, the UHC, employees I work with, they were extremely scared. They don't like, and the morale at United Healthcare is really rough right now, just because of all of the things, right? UHC is not doing great, and
they just keep hiring the same people to do very terrible work.
It's funny because in my world, in my side, the people I work with are great people, and they're really knowledgeable, they're really skilled, and so they really are doing good work for what they do, right? But the reality is, it's not them, it's the system. It's it's the people are great. Like the people I work with at United Healthcare are fantastic human beings.
Super mission driven, want to help, like they're helpers.
Yeah, like great people.
And what you said is they are stuck in a system. So I mean, so I worked at UHC. Well, I worked for the group UHG. So I was on the provider side. So Optum was my space. And we at Optum would try and negotiate deals. It's the same company. It's the same company. At the end of the day, the share prices are not different. And the trying to work with the payer around approvals, and you would hear them. They're like, we have like the guardrails that sit on top of them. The how they are bonused out is around telling people no, so that the company can make whatever money it needs to make. So it is not the individuals. It isn't.
I think you bring up a good point. I think it's a very philosophical question that we have to ask ourselves in our world, in our healthcare system. Should we be for profit or should we not be for profit?
Yeah.
And so ultimately at the end of the day, if you're for profit, then you have to answer to shareholders.
That's
and
right.
you have to answer to making dollars. But at what expense? And that's where we have to really kind of focus our world, is what expense is what we're doing. What's the cost of for-profit medicine?
Right.
It's a very tough question though, because I think the reality is that there are, government-run healthcare systems all over the world, right? And you hear about the pros and cons of a lot of these systems as well. It's not all sunshine and roses in Canada or England or wherever you want to throw it out there, or Mexico, whatever you want to say. It's a very, very tricky thing.
It is.
It's very complicated, and
it's definitely, yes.
You realize how complicated it is when a few years ago, if you recall, what's his name, Berkshire Hathaway guy,
Warren
Buffett,
right? Warren Buffett. We could all probably agree he's a pretty bright guy. We had Jamie Dimon, I think that's his name. It's from Chase.
Yeah. Chase.
And we had, I think it was Amazon. I think it was Bezos. Like they all went into this conglomerate together, and they were like, "We're smarter than everybody else. We're gonna fix this." And guess what happened? Like 2 years later, they very quietly folded it.
They're not even in the business anymore. Yeah. And that's an interesting, because I was at United when all of that was going on, and the internal memos of like small panic. And I think at the time the CEO came from pharmacy, the GlaxoSmithKline, Andrew Whitty. He was like, we've been doing this for the better part of like 30 years and we can't figure it out. They think they're going to come and just be able to put some technology in and then it's like going to solve. And it was like, I think it does.
These people.
I think it does partially, Rory, and I know you got to go, so this is a conversation for a larger day, but it does go back to a philosophical question around for-profit versus non-profit. But I would argue also that in a for-profit space, have we gotten into such a situation that we are more concerned about shareholder dollars? Like, take any of the companies that have been purchased by private equity. Look at what their engagement scores are now from a customer perspective and an employee perspective. Everything is in the absolute basement. So have we sort of thought about shareholders as the single stakeholder that we're so focused on delivering for, and forget that, well, you have a whole consumer base that your shareholders are going to ditch you. We can look at Target and Target stock prices, right? As soon as people were like, I'm not shopping there anymore. Or, I just lost my train of thought. Anyway, there is this idea that we need to be thinking, yes, like capitalism has become so much about the shareholder, and we forgot that consumers play a huge role in the success of this. And I will argue that employees play such a huge role. And those things, we have accepted low engagement, low expectations from businesses. I think we've just accepted low expectations. And now we're starting to feel it, right?
100%. I don't remember the actual, the consumer index or whatever the scores they give you.
The NPS.
like I can't remember. So I can't remember the scale. Like this is a terrible story because I'm not going to be able to give you specifics. But let's just say the scale is 10, and 10 is the best and 1 is the worst. Like basically, healthcare, insurance companies, they basically are happy if they get like a 4. Like that's like a good score. Like that's what they're
happy in the negative. They're happy in the negative. So it's like the 0 to or whatever, -10 to negative to +10. They're happy at the 0. They're happy at the negative. As long as it's not -10, but because the scale has slid so far down, if they can be a 1, they're like, we're better than that group over there that's a -4 or whatever the numbers are, right? I had a last story before we go. I had a CEO. He now heads up Oracle, but he was CEO at UCLA when I worked there. And I remember the patient experience scores were like 73%, which was best in the nation. Nobody was doing it better than UCLA. And he said, this is not good enough. We have whatever the difference between 73 and 100 is, because my brain just shut off on me. And, 27% of the customers who come through here, or patients who come through here, are unhappy. That is to be unacceptable. We were #1 in the country. I think that type of attitude doesn't exist with CEOs anymore. They don't care. They're like, as long as we're 1 up and our stock prices stay good, it's fine. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, if we're delivering the whole purpose, our purpose and intent, why we're here. Anyway.
No, I think,
Rory?
And with that note, I think that that sums up a lot of what the reality is of our world right now, and it is. Yeah, no, I mean, there's so much to unpack on all of that, but no, I thank you again for your time, and yes, let's definitely.